Hello, everyone. Red Bull Games. We're here with
Drew Holmes. I'm the lead writer on FarCry 5.
FarCry 5, all the way from Hope County.
Yeah.
So nice to meet you, Drew. I'm Humberto. Humberto in English, right? So FarCry 5, right? Hype is all the way. You are the lead writer.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Not a whole lot, no. But my role was really about helping craft that story with Dan Hay, our creative director, Jean-Sébastien Decant, our narrative director, and the rest of the writing team. I was overseeing the writing of the cinematics, the creation of the characters, the development of the open world story, and really everything involving story and characters was sort of, I was overseeing and working with our big writing team to make sure that we delivered a cast of characters that was the largest that we've seen in a Far Cry game.
Yeah.
The deepest, I think, in terms of relatability and empathy for building characters that you wanted to spend a lot of time with. And it was a big undertaking, but I think ultimately people have been responding really well to it.
So how long has the game been in creative development?
I think from various stages, right, really early on, probably 4 years ago, in early concept and pre-production. I've been on the project for just over 2 years now, really write every day, working on these characters and working on the story.
You've been on the project for 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
right? Cool. So it's a very interesting game and a very interesting theme, especially today,
Yeah.
right? Because it really looks like a mirror of reality, it started. And it's funny because the game has been in development for 4 years and then stuff started happening, like the Bundy brothers and...
It's something that never was the intention to sort of lean so close to relevancy. But I think, when you're say you're going to set a game in present day America, I think there's a thin line you have to walk between. Do you sort of start to chase the headlines as news starts to get a little bit more crazy every day, at the risk of losing the story that you initially set out to tell? Or do you sort of set that aside at the risk of not feeling like it's relevant to the world that we live in today? So I think ultimately the story that we wanted to tell is still one that was as relevant then, maybe even more relevant now, which is this feeling of being on an edge, being on a precipice, and what happens as you get closer. Are we going to fall off that cliff, or are we going to have the capacity as a society to pull ourselves back? I think it's a game that talks about how we deal with madmen and zealots, and if we're willing to sort of force ourselves to disengage from the insanity and find a better way forward.
And I guess one of the most interesting talking points of the game, it's not only talking about zealots and madmen, but the people who follow them,
Mm-hmm.
right? So how does Joseph Seed invite the people? How does he build this cult? How does he convince them to join him?
Yeah, I think what he does is he reaches out to them and talks to them in a way that is resonant for the way that they feel. If you spend time in the game listening to the sermons that he has on the radio or on loudspeakers in outposts, what he's talking about is a sense of people feeling disenfranchised, feeling powerless, feeling like the world and the powers that be have sort of cast them aside, and they feel like they have no purpose. And what he's saying is, I will give you purpose. Put down your phone. Stop tweeting. Stop trying to put all of your worth into a world that doesn't give a shit about you, and just trust in me and trust in our family. We will take care of you, and we will protect you in the calamity to come. And he believes that God has told him that the end of the world is coming, and he's got to save all these people. And so he's reaching out to them early on to say, I can protect you. All you have to do is trust in me. And then what happens is, as the years go by and as the calamity continues to not happen, I think he probably starts to go a little mad, go a little crazy. And when you as the player arrive to sort of put an end to all of this, and you're a rookie sheriff's deputy coming in with a warrant with a U.S. Marshal to arrest him, it sort of kicks off this prophecy that he's been building up around the seven seals, and he sees your arrival as the sort of opening of the first seal in the Book of Revelations, and all of the events that spin out from that are sort of fulfilling this own prophecy that he's set up, and it's about, you know, you as the player. Do you believe him? Or do you think that he's crazy? And that's the central question I think we pose.
Is that like an option to actually believe in what he's saying?
Well, I think it's as a player, you sitting at home, I think it's something that we pose to you. But I think ultimately, you know, there will be a choice that you will be forced to make at some point in the game, where it's about, you know, are you listening to the things that he's saying? Have you paid attention to what people are telling you to do and not to do, and really in that moment, it's a decision that I think is very, very resonant and sort of spins everything out.
And how many years has the Eden's Gate community been going on when you arrived?
They've been there for about 10 years. So
wow.
we went and we built the history of how they came to Hope County, how they took over Hope County. We did a lot of research with some cult experts like Rick Ross and Mia Donovan, people who have studied cults for a very long time, and because we wanted to make sure that the cult that we were building felt believable, but was ours, and sort of created on our own for the purposes of this game. And so we sort of stepped through. If they would have moved here, you know, they would have moved in. They would have bought up some property, which would have forced, you know, devaluated some land. They would have bought up more land. They moved more people in. They can now vote themselves onto things like the city council. They get more control over the populace, over the municipalities, and all of a sudden, within the course of a few years, you look around and everything is owned by Eden's Gate, and people can't sell their meat. They can't sell their grain. You know, they can't get their kids in the right schools because everything all of a sudden is controlled by the cult. And that was something that, in talking with Rick and Mia, it's something that has precedent and has happened in smaller communities in the past. And so that was really how we built this entire history of Eden's Gate. So
you studied actual cults, mm-hmm. and you studied how they build, and I guess that's what you as a player are going to be like. It's not going to be just kill the bad guy. You're going to have to systematically disassemble this cult.
Well, I think by the time that you step in, the situation has really gone to shit, for lack of a better term. And the cult has enacted what is called the reaping, which is the violent overthrow of the rest of the community because they are preparing for the immediate end of the world. And so they're viewing you as sort of this outsider that is trying to stop them from their future. And so they're going to react very, very violently to you. And you are really tasked with either dealing with that violence head on or talking to the members of the community and trying to find different ways of helping them with, you know, all the various missions that they're going to give you to really sort of push back against Eden's Gate.
There is a local resistance,
mm-hmm.
right?
Yes.
Movement. And
yeah.
Are there factions within the resistance, or is it just like let's finish this guy? Or
there are 3 different communities that you'll meet. There's 3 regions in the game, and each region is sort of structured as like a different TV series or TV season of a TV show. If you sort of look at FarCry 5 as like the TV series, each region I think is probably season 1, season 2, season 3 that you can play through in any order. So each region has its own community of people that are sort of pushing back against either John Seed in his region, or Jacob in the north, or Faith in the east. And it's a group of people that, you know, in Falls End, it's sort of just local everyday people. You know, Mary May the bartender, Pastor Jerome the pastor. Of course, he's a pastor. His name is Pastor Jerome. Nick Rye, who owns a local aviation firm. And then in the north, there's you know, the Whitetail Militia, and they've been sort of preparing this fight against Eden's Gate for a bit longer, and they're waging war against Jacob in the north. So each community has its own group of people that have been thrown together, and you as the player are stepping in and trying to go, okay, this is the situation. You know, how am I going to help them? How am I going to help them push back against Eden's Gate?
And what are you? This is a question I like to ask. What are you the proudest of? What is your sweet little baby that you protected through development, through creative meetings?
I think really it's the cast itself. when looking back at Far Cry 3 and Far Cry 4, everyone remembers the villain.
Yeah.
But no one really remembers the people that fought alongside you. For Far Cry 5, it was about how do we elevate your supporting cast to be at some level just as important as the villain that really is driving the rest of the story. So making sure that there's, I think, probably around 50 named characters that you're going to be able to interact with on the Resistance side. Making sure that they all felt believable and felt that they were real people that you could probably meet somewhere in small town America, and having the talent on the writing team to be able to hand off all these different characters so that we could get a wide range of viewpoints from all the writers on the team, and then be able to sort of shape that into a group of people where when players sit down and play it, so many different players I think sort of identify different favorites in all the different groups. So some people really attach themselves to Mary May, Pastor Jerome, and other people are really engaged with Weedy or Tammy or Eli in the North. So I think that's the most rewarding part, is seeing the reaction to people meeting these characters.
So you're really looking forward to see on Twitter who's siding with who and who's the favorite
exactly.
one.
And I think we've done a lot in terms of fleshing out these characters' backstories, and you can just spend time talking to them and getting to know them, and then you walk up and hit the talk button, and they're going to tell you what's on their mind. They're going to tell you their opinions of what's happening. And some of the characters are really, really serious, and they've got a lot of darkness and things that have happened in their past that have sort of affected them, and they're much more honest. And then you have characters like Herc, who are much more ridiculous and comedic, and so I think there's something for everyone to really sort of engage in. And when you get your Guns for Hire together, you have someone like Herc, and you have Herc's mom Adelaide, and you just let them, they'll be hanging out, and all of a sudden they'll strike up a conversation between the two of them, and it's something that happens really in an organic way, and it feels like a mom and a son trying to reconcile their differences. I think it's just a fun time to spend.
So you can bring like a whole squad to your missions, not just one companion?
It's the Guns for Hire. You can have two people with you all the time. So
that's cool.
You can have two specialists. You can have a Guns for Hire fighter, which is one of the more generic ones. You can have your Fangs for Hire. You can have two Fangs for Hire with you at a time. You can have a co-op partner and a Guns for Hire with you. So there's all sorts of different combinations you can create, and I think that experimentation in terms of who you want to bring with at any given time really allows for more of those wild Far Cry moments.
And the conversations,
yes.
Right? Like it's always like, for example, squad-based games like Mass Effect, the conversations that happen are always a big incentive.
And these people, they've grown up with each other, they've known each other for a long time, they have different opinions on others, and there's one character in particular that is in love with one of the other Guns for Hire, and he writes her poetry, and it's really, really quiet poetry. It's great.
Cool. So, was there any pushback from leadership or from somewhere when the real world started to mirror your fictional story? Was anyone telling you, you gotta tone down? Or I just watched the Inside Eden Gate short, and I didn't know, or the trailers didn't say like they drugged the people, and that kind of felt to me like, oh, maybe this came from an executive that was like, oh, you cannot put rural America like it is, so make them drugged so people don't say.
No, I think the game that we made is the game that we always set out to make, and Ubisoft, at the publishing level and the exec level has always been incredibly supportive of the game that we wanted to make. So we never felt any sort of like pressure to change anything. We said this is the game we want to make, and these are the things that we want to tackle, and I think Ubisoft's a company that allows the people that are sort of on the creative side and saying this is the stuff that we want to make. It's okay. Then how do we support you to really deliver on your vision?
So one last question, because I'm 5 minutes over my time. I always love asking this. So what is the one thing you would recommend players to do that it will probably not occur to them by themselves? What the one counterintuitive, fun thing that they should definitely try?
I would say I think mixing matching your Guns for Hire, not just with the unique named ones, but also the generic ones. Because you might think that, oh, it's just a generic guns for hire. What sort of fun could be had when you get a generic guns for hire and someone like Adelaide who loves to hit on everyone? You're in for some
even
fun
the
times.
bear.
Everyone.
Well, okay. Now that's a nice tip. Well, thank you very much, man.
Thank you.